It's almost impossible to learn that unless you live in Russia for a number of years and just drill it and drill it and drill it. But not everyone has the luxury of moving to Russia or Belarus or Ukraine or any other Russian language speaking country. So my tip and how I made great progress was just deciding, that's it. I am not going to learn the grammar. I'm just going to learn vocabulary.
So there you just got a little bit of a taste about how you can learn Russian from Ben on Bolt Bankrupt, a good friend of mine. And in the last Tip Thursday, I went into 3 strategies to overcome the language barrier that you will face here in Ukraine if you come, because you're going to need it if you come to live, say, 3 to 12 months, a year, if you're not just a tourist and you're actually going to do a little bit more than being a tourist here in Ukraine. So in today's Tip Thursday with me, Connor Klein, we're going to go into 3 tips to help you learn the local language here in Ukraine. Obviously the official language is Ukrainian, but Russian is widely spoken. So let's dive deep into it. Поехали! So there you just listened to Ben from Bolt Bankrupt, good friend of mine, and he's outlining how he learned Russian. I'll link that video down below in the description as well. But basically, the crux of his strategy is basically just to ignore grammar completely and focus on building vocabulary. Where I feel you should start is with the alphabet, because that is what scares a lot of guys the most about learning Russian. Now, most guys are scared of the alphabet just because it looks different, but actually there are some letters that are, first of all, the same, and actually the real annoying thing is there's some letters that are the same but have different sounds and you're going to have to learn that in the beginning, get used to it. But in reality, it only takes, I would say, somewhere between 8 and 10 hours, I would think, to actually learn the alphabet. And learn it really, really well, I think. Because nowadays, how often do you handwrite? I almost never handwrite, even in English, never mind Russian. So I don't think you need to go and learn that cursive script, the handwritten script that I actually learned when I started off in Russian all those years ago. I basically never use it. It is useful, however, to read menus, because sometimes stylistically they write menus with this cursive script. But for you don't need to worry about it. Just learn the printed script and basically start to type with it as soon as possible. If you're on a laptop or even on your smartphone, just switch the language keyboard to Russian, get some practice, get used to it. It will be a bit confusing in the beginning with respect to those letters that are the same but have different sounds. So let me give you an example. The English P, when you look at that in Russian, it's going to be an R sound. It's going to be R. So that's going to be annoying in the beginning. It's going to take a little bit of practice to get that down, but once you have that, then you're good to go.
Сумасшедший турист. Сумасшедший турист.
You sound Brazilian, I don't know why. So tip number 2 is learn the very, very, very basics of grammar and nothing more right in the beginning. I think you do need to understand just the very basic structure. Definitely am not a grammar Nazi. I always hated grammar and I never focused on it. And I basically learned it through a process of osmosis, which is like, grammar is just more or less the basic trends in a language, how you structure it. And as you speak more and more of it, you're going to notice these patterns, and then basically you can go and look them up if they're that important. Like if you see something is happening all the time. So with grammar, one of the big things, one of the big challenges, if you are, say, a native English speaker, or a native German speaker, a native Spanish speaker, whatever it happens to be, we don't, in those languages, those Romance, and a little bit in the Germanic languages, actually in German, you do have cases. Now for English, we don't have any cases anymore, but basically, instead of using a preposition, like we do, we'd say, all right, I'm going to Kiev, for example. You don't say that in Russian or Ukrainian. Russian actually has 6 cases, while Ukrainian has 7. Instead of using that preposition, I'm going to Kiev, or I'm in Kiev, you would use the same word, there actually is a preposition, the, but to say whether you're going towards something or you're in something, you would actually change the city, the noun itself. So you change it from, the name of the city is obviously in Russian, we'll say Kiev, but you would say, if you're going to it, Kiev, and if you're in it, you would say Kyiv. That's basically how you tell someone whether you're going to it or you're already in it. It's just a trend. It's nothing that dramatic, and it's not really that important in the beginning, except for the very, 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 very basics.
Завтра косити підемо. Ти вже гуляли мені не проси.
Third tip. So let's deal with what Ben recommended as his big tip, is obviously to focus on the vocabulary. Now, that's easier said than done because the commonality of vocabulary with English is pretty low, but you can start there. Russian does have a lot of loan words that come from English. A lot of them come from Spanish, some come from Greek, some come from German. So if you speak any of those languages, I would recommend you start there. Get like an overview of a lot of words that are going to be similar between the languages you already speak, probably English and Russian. So president is going to be president, for example, just to give a very quick example. Or butterbrot actually comes from German. So if you speak German, that's going to be an easy one. It's an open sandwich. And there are lots of words like that. So definitely focus on understanding which ones you get for kind of free in the beginning. Then the second thing about vocabulary is practice the vocabulary that you really need for you personally. Like, okay, I was born in Ireland. I'm from Ireland. I need to say in Russian quite often, Я из Ирландии, я ирландец. I'm from Ireland. I'm Irish. Now, unless you happen to be also Irish, the word Ireland or Irish is probably next to useless to you, if you're American or you're British somewhere else. So learn those words first and practice them a lot. A lot of vocabulary lists, they teach you the most common words, and obviously a lot of those are going to come up a lot and be useful to you. But if it's not really something you're going to have to say a lot, then in the beginning, it's not going to be very useful. It's something you can learn afterwards. And what I've noticed overall amongst my friends, my clients, if you're planning to spend a lot of time here and you don't want to invest in learning any of the local language, inevitably the leveling is just not high enough here if you're spending a lot of time to really be able to do what you want without learning it. And putting it off, you're just delaying the inevitable. You're going to have to learn it eventually. So my advice overall is, are going to spend a lot of time here, like you're really fascinated by the region, like it's Ben. Like imagine Ben Baldwin Bankrupt, if he didn't speak Russian, what would his channel be like? It would be rather lackluster, I think. He wouldn't have the same number of ventures. I think his channel is probably the biggest advocate for learning Russian because you can travel most of the region with it, and you have all these adventures that other foreigners just don't get without the language. So that's it. They are my 3 tips for you today, very basic ones to get started on where you should focus in learning Russian or Ukrainian if you are here. It's all pretty similar in terms of the strategy.
Що там в іншій кімнаті?
Так, і
Мій багаж.
там побачимо.
Ага,
Давайте.
давайте. Дуже дякую.
Ooh, it is chilly here in Odessa, and there were my 3 tips for today about how you can learn Russian. You can also apply them to learning Ukrainian. They're general language learning tips for Slavic language. I think they will help you quite a bit on your language learning journey for coming here to Ukraine. Now, back in the day, before I was filming about life here in Eastern Europe, I used to run a language learning blog. So actually, it's one of my big passions, learning languages, and I blogged about that for quite a while. And I do have a language learning course, a general one, but now I'm about to open up and launch one specifically for learning Russian. Going to start their beginners Russian. That's going to be coming very soon. So if you want to learn some Russian for your trip here to Ukraine or to Russia or to Belarus or somewhere else in the former Soviet Union, then this will be opening up very soon for you. It's going to be a beginner's course to help you and get you a big boost, a big start to your Russian learning that you can use and apply here when you come to Ukraine, and it'll help you in lots of different ways. Obviously avoiding all the scammer girls who basically prioritize the guys who don't speak Russian, who seem a little bit more green and easier to manipulate for one. And the way to get notified of that is, as always, to be on my free mailing list. It's where my most loyal fans hang out. That's why I give them access, priority access to my courses in general. The way to get onto that, of course, there's going to be a link below. Now, I have below actually a free general language learning course that you should just take advantage of. It's a free gift anyways. So go down, sign up for that, and then you will get notified of that in due course. That's it. It is absolutely freezing here in Odessa. It's the coldest day of the year when I'm filming these clips. I don't know why I picked today. My hands are almost frozen. Hanging out here on the balcony, even in the sunlight, it feels close to -20, -5 Celsius with the wind chill and the humidity because we're beside the sea. So I'm gonna get in, out of the cold. See you very soon in the next video. Do svidania, to practice your Russian, which is goodbye, and do побачення in Ukrainian. See you very soon in the next video. До встречи from Odessa, Ukraine.
SAR Experience.